Oh, I don't think the audio's on.
Thank you so much.
You guys.
Never a dull moment. Okay. Would you mute me there, please? Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm going to repeat myself for the folks in the room here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Lara Villamot, she and hers. I'm the head of Outreach and Community Experience here at the Framingham Public Library. We're so thrilled that you were able to join us for the second part of our sustainability series, which is Go Solar at Home. So for those of you who are interested in solar panels and other forms of energy, we are very excited tonight to be partnering with the Sustainability Committee here in Framingham. A few brief announcements. We really appreciate your patience with us. We've kind of switched a little bit at the last minute to a sort of hybrid version on a hybrid, sort of hybrid cubed at this point. For the folks in the room, we'd love to take any questions after the end of the presentation. And we'll just repeat those out loud to our speaker. We also have coffee and tea to keep you warm for those of you who were brave enough to venture outside with us tonight. For those of you who are in the room, we'd like to take this opportunity to ask you to please silence your cell phones, ringers, anything like that. Go ahead and turn those off for me. And in just a minute, I'm going to turn it over to our Zoom speaker. But before I do, I would like to introduce some of the members of our Sustainability Committee. They're going to do their own brief introduction. So welcome.
Good evening, everybody. This is the second of a series that we've created with as a partnership with, how do I get a slide on
Yeah,
here?
I'm gonna get the slides back up. Laura, share screen.
Share screen. And then that one, yep, perfect. And then share. And then if you want to go full screen, you can do that, or we can
Yeah,
just do it.
just
here.
do it this way.
That's
Great.
fine.
Yeah.
Good, we're all set now. So this is the second of a series that we created with as a partnership with the library, with the Framingham Sustainability Committee. My name is Donald Gross, and we have
It's gonna be the bottom ones.
which one?
Here.
Here?
Nope.
Here. No,
Hang on.
we're having some technical issues. So we created 4 series to start with this. The Framingham Sustainability Committee is providing outreach to the community and coordinating information with other departments in the municipality. And we came up with these 4 series. We've had, we're on the second one, which is putting solar in your house. And the third one will be heat pumps, which has a lot of interest, and people are eager to learn about what they can do with their house with heat pumps. And the last one, which I think will be very exciting, is electric vehicles, rebates, how you get one, what it's like to own one. And I'm working on there are 9 people on the Sustainability Committee, 8 at the moment. We were looking for a youth member. We're still canvassing for that. We were established in 2020, and our duties, as you can see, is we advise the mayor and sustainability coordinator. But I think the most important thing is we engage citizens, which is what we're doing tonight, to put out information and help people get to learn more about what we're doing in the community.
Want me to do
At the sustainability site is got a lot of good information that you can go to with that, and we encourage you to visit that. And also we have meetings 2 times a month on a Wednesday. They're open. We really encourage people to participate and join that, because you can see it. You don't have to leave your house. You can be sitting at home, and we really need input from the community. So we encourage you to join us.
Thank you, Donald. I'm Amy Puwalka. I'm also with the Sustainability Committee. Just to wrap things up, we're talking about community engagement, wrap things on the intro, I should say. So we are planning to do a climate action plan here in Framingham, and we want as many people as possible to contribute to this plan. We're looking for all sorts of feedback. The QR code goes directly to a space where you can sign up that you want to be informed about the workshops. So if you could, we'd love to have you. Another big piece that Framingham is working on is called community electricity. This is in which the city is going to be able to purchase electricity in bulk on behalf of residents and businesses, and hopefully help all of us have manageable costs and more clean energy. This will be coming in likely next year. It's in process now, so look for more education on that. All right, so I misspoke previously. This is the QR code for the climate action plan. And now I am going to introduce our speaker for tonight, Casey Bolduc. And I'm going to stop my sharing. Casey, if you can start your sharing. Casey is coming with us from Ace Solar, and his company was part of the Metro West Clean Heat and Solar program, which ran this last summer and fall. That program is complete, but keep your eye out. There are plenty of new opportunities coming up. And with that, Casey, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Hopefully I'm unmuted. Yes, all set. Checked all the technological boxes here. thank you again for inviting me to be part of this. Very happy to hear that, you know, the city is taking the initiative to look at this sort of clean energy revolution as a whole. And solar is, I'd say, maybe I'm a little biased, but a big part of this, the bigger picture. So happy to be sharing some more information about it. Let's see here. So what is solar? What are we talking about, right? Really PV or photovoltaic solar energy is what we're talking about. The sun, where the solar comes from, you know, creates the energy in these panels. I'm actually getting ahead of myself already, but in general, provides zero emission energy generation. There's no moving mechanical parts. The warranties last at least up to 25 years. Products beyond that, we'll say. Every system either has an inverter, micro inverters, and can provide excess energy during the day, can be used at night. Also can be used in the form of credits from month to month, but again, getting ahead of myself here. How does it work? The sun provides the energy, as we said, and the photons or particles of light are knocked around basically within the panels. And then that energy is through electric conduit fed down to an inverter, or in another case, not to get too technical, but micro inverters along the way, which convert that direct current into alternating current energy that we can use at the home or business or elsewhere. Battery storage is a very kind of new, I'll say, relatively new part of the solar industry. You know, kind of in its infancy, there's the first couple of batteries are available, ready for residential use. I will say that it's, again, relatively new technology, so there's a lot more to come, as you can see, or as you've seen with solar in general. It's not required at this point. I'd say in places like California or other places where there's time of use rate change, they're much more valuable in that way, where you can store energy and use it during times of the day where it costs a little bit more to use it. But it's reliable in the form of backup for, I'll say, not a whole home scenario, but small sub panels or certain breakers in the house, you know, emergency services and such. Basically storing that solar energy either during the day or using it at night, or, you know, when the power is down or you lose that connection to the grid, but giving it a little bit more of energy independence. And there are some added incentives available for that too. For example, some of the utility companies kind of an emergency use function, I should say, a couple times a year if there's an event where the grid needs more energy, that if you're enrolled in this program, they'll be able to draw energy that you have available from your battery and compensate you for said energy. But again, in emergency purposes, just to kind of help the greater good. Net metering. So a kind of basic function, especially here in Massachusetts, where basically the solar panels can produce more during the day than you use. So the idea being that if you generate more than you use during the day, then you're racking up those credits on your electric bill. Not in the form of, you know, I'll say like a financial or tangible like cash incentive. But again, the idea with solar, really, we look at things from an annual perspective. So looking at what you're going to use over the course of a year, knowing that throughout the year, the sun's going to be in different positions and different seasons, you know, so it's not a 1-for-1, maybe every month of the year, but over the course of the year, you generate at least more than you would use. And then that's where net metering kicks in. It's a really simple form of it is that, you know, the utility is doing just doing the math on how much you use versus how much you generate on a monthly basis. If you generate more, you get a little credit to carry over to the next month. If you use a little bit more than you generate, then you either dip into those credits or, you know, may have a bill as a result. So why go solar? I think I gave a couple of good points, but in general, lower or even eliminate your electric bill. Really, the goal is to offset your entire electric bill, right? There's always going to be a couple service charges and things like that that you can't get away from. But again, using that concept of net metering, if we're building in a little bit of a buffer, you know, for your system over the course of the year, you know, generate a little bit more to offset those service charges, right? Decrease your carbon footprint. Of course, the environmental benefits of this are inherent, I'd say. I often talk about the financial benefits quite a bit and get carried away that way, but it's really cannot be said enough. The sort of environmental benefits of going solar, contributing to the sort of greater greener good. Increasing the value of your home is being proven more and more. I'll say we're in the early stages of that, of the statistics of that being available. Having a couple contacts in the real estate industry, they ask questions on, kind of how to talk to their clients about it. I would say if, a home comes with its own power station, essentially, or without an electric bill, that's a pretty good selling it. Protecting yourself from the rising cost of electricity, I think probably should have moved this up on the slide because I'm sure this is fresh on everyone's minds. Very recently, almost all the utility companies have increased their rates. I am in New Hampshire, and that happened all at once a few months ago. And it has, people thinking about it a little bit differently. As an industry, solar companies model, the financial projection, the energy projections at a 3 to 3.5 escalation rate as far as utility rates, because we've seen it at least been 3.5 every year since the beginning of electricity rates. So that's one thing. There's no way that anyone could have anticipated what was going to happen this year. So again, if you are generating your own energy, you're not paying those electricity rates. It's a reliable and green investment. I think that's a nice marketing touch that one of my colleagues put in there. Speaking of questions, I tend to ramble on, so I don't know if there are any questions at this point, or I can continue.
No. Casey, this is Amy. I don't see any questions in our audience at this time.
Okay.
Oh, I do have one question.
Okay.
You spoke a little bit about the net benefits in terms of credits. I've also heard about your credits being applied sort of on a wider basis, on a city basis.
So the question is, you spoke about net metering benefits and the credits that attribute to your bill, and that's on a personal or residence basis. The question is whether that is applied in a wider city basis, something in that area they've heard about.
So it's not widely available at this time. There are some new, and I have some information on it, not specifically. There's some new programs and really capabilities becoming available about sharing your energy. So if you have that excess energy, then setting up basically every utility, the form is called the Schedule Z. You're basically dictating electronically where those credits, what account those credits will go to. So yes, that is something that that can be done, can be set up, and it's becoming more and more popular, I'll say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So if there aren't any more, I carry on from here.
Continue on.
You got it. So just some things to think about as you're going through the process of going solar. So for a homeowner, the way I always think about things is that, as a homeowner, really, this is your castle. It's an investment or a home improvement, just like any other, putting an addition on. I think it's the almost invisible addition that is offsetting your electric bill, if you think about it that way. But there's some important factors to think about as you're going through. It's not for everybody when it comes down to it. There's a lot of variables at play. So just kind of want to go through some of the really basic points that you should consider. Some things to ask, is there a lot of shades and trees? So basically, right, you need the sun to work. So if you have that direct line of sun on your roof for the majority of the day, that's a good starting point. It doesn't have to be all day long. It's the majority of the day. And of course, the sun height changes. So that's just, something that can be looked at. You can always trim trees, removing trees. Obviously, for the environmental benefits, I don't really start with removing trees. So basically, just considering the shade could be other obstructions as well. I know I have a nice tree here, but maybe your neighbor's house might be an obstruction, right? Your average electric bill. So how much are you looking to generate? As you can see, this number of panels here, I think there's probably 10 on the roof. I believe this is down the Cape. Smaller electric usage, probably not there year round, right? So don't need a lot of energy. I'll say since then, panels have gotten a little bit more efficient. So we're in the 400 to 420 watt range per panel these days. But point being, if you need more electricity, you'll need more panels. So how much space do you have? Leading into the next couple of questions. Does your roof need to be replaced? You know, the condition of the roof is important. You know, they're going to be up there for 25 years at least. You know, assuming nothing goes wrong, which shouldn't, it's under warranty. But I kind of look at starting with the clean canvas. My installer cohort or colleagues would probably appreciate if I, you know, say it that way. You know, it's not to say that you can't get under the panels if something were to come up down the line. You know, if God forbid, an accident happened and, you know, they need to be removed temporarily, that's the service that we can do. You know, coming up, removing all or just a section of the panels, you know, letting the contractors do whatever roof work needs to be done and then zipping back in there to put it all back together. And then the direction that your roof is facing is also important. If you have a flat roof, maybe not so important, but south here in our neck of the woods is the ideal sort of facing point. Roof at 41, 42 degrees, I think is ideal. My engineering colleagues would probably correct me on that, but just roughly something to think about. So the financial incentives, the federal ITC, so just, I'm glad we updated this. Just recently, you might have heard in the news that the Green New Deal, along with the IRA, the acronym is escaping me at this moment, but new tax benefits anyways, we're back up to 30%. That was slated to go down to 22%, but now everybody's back up to 30% of the entire project cost. You would get back in the form of a tax credit on that year's taxes. There are, with the new updates, there's really a lot to be parsed out with some of the new regulations related to energy rates and solar projects particularly, but it looks like there'll be some more maybe increased tax incentives for products coming domestically or using products that are made domestically, along with some other sort of intricacies that I'll get into in some further slides. The SMART program here in Massachusetts, still for Eversource and some utilities, it's a dwindling incentive, but basically on top of net metering and everything we've discussed, the SMART program pays you a per kilowatt hour incentive for everything you generate for 10 years. So let's say it's 5 cents per kilowatt hour and you generate 100 kilowatt hours, then getting a good size of money. I'm not really great at math, so I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that on the fly. But basically per kilowatt hour incentive for 10 years, and that's locked in, no change there. Battery storage incentives, I discussed a little bit, but total project cost that will go into the ITC as well. So 30% of that. Batteries at this point are about, I'll say roughly $20,000 kind of per unit. So adding that amount onto the total project cost obviously would increase that tax incentive as well. Also, there's still some low interest solar loans available. Obviously, with banking and things that, you kind of can take more questions on it. You always want to be careful with the fine print and everything that you're getting into. Not everything is as great as it seems. But I know for one, there's a UMass 5 was a bank that has a My Solar loan based on the old Mass DEC My Solar loan. Pretty low interest rates, 5, 10, and 15-year terms. And, so instead of making that investment up front, you're basically swapping your electric bill for a loan payment. And then once the loan's paid off, you're then in the green. Kind of over all of these, but a nice visual to accompany that. Maybe I should have put there first. Timeline of things. So this is all kind of relative. There's a lot of intricacies that go into a solar project. We're working with not only you and your home, your utility company, the state incentives, so Mass DEC and some others, and depending on the town as well. Birmingham obviously working with Eversource and the Mass DEC there. And the town permitting, I should say, is the other half of that. not only a building permit, but electrical permit. So there's also 2 different permits to work with there. But generally speaking, from the time that you would sign a contract, be about 3 months, I'll say 8 to 12 weeks, until your installation is complete. Again, New England weather, a lot of other factors that could vary, but generally speaking, that's what you could expect, I think, in the market today. From that, there's a little bit of time after that. The installation is complete, working again with the utility in the town to close out those permits and to get PTO, or permission to operate your system. Once the utility has said everything looks good and you're ready to go, we let you know, and then we flip on the system and you are running on green energy. The solar installation itself, right, depending on the scale of the project, this nice looking one down in the Cape probably was a 1-day install, but generally 2 days is probably give or take on the project, the installation itself, depending on the complexity. And with that, I'm out of slides. I did say questions, I guess, just to give you an example of the proposal. This was actually from the Metro West program. So typically what you would see from us and any solar contractor that you would reach out to, an overhead view, you know, kind of laying out where the panels would be, and then formal proposal, really breaking down the cost and the production of the system. There we go.
Now I'm unmuted.
There you
All right, great job, Casey.
thank
Let's
you.
see if we have some questions from the audience. Yes.
On the roof readiness, if you will, who decides whether or not the roof can support the solar as is, or if it needs to be replaced before it gets installed?
So the question is about roof and whether the roof is ready for solar or not.
Yep.
And who decides whether the roof needs to be replaced, and whether what changes need to happen before the solar.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess ultimately it's the homeowner's call when it comes down to it, but we'll always, as part of our process, have our site surveyor go out and assess the condition of the roof. If they see, you know, if it appears that the shingles are going to be replaced or need to be replaced within the next 10 to 15 years, I'll say, that, you know, it's apparent to them. They will pass along that information and make that recommendation. You know, if it ultimately is the homeowner's call. You know, if they want, you know, incur the cost of that and they want to install the solar first, and then down the line deal with replacing the roof, and then the reinstall or uninstall and reinstall costs, then, you know, that's perfectly fine. I'd say we would make our best recommendation.
Great. Yes, another question.
If you have to replace your roof, is that cost and the cost of the solar panels eligible for tax credits? In other words, is the entire package, the roof replacement and the solar installation, eligible for tax credits?
Yeah, I got that. So
You
great
heard
question. I did, yeah. So you might have seen me shaking my head that entire time. Let me preface this all by saying that I'm not a tax accountant, nor would I say that a solar has any sort of tax representations about any of this. However, in my humble opinion, if you needed to replace your roof in order to accommodate a solar project, I would say that that is part of the cost of the solar project. So, I ultimately would defer to your, you know, accountant or CPA, but yeah, I would say so.
Another question.
Are building departments requiring structural evaluation of the framing of the roof that it can support the additional weight?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is something that we take very seriously as far as actually another third party that I didn't mention along the way. So thank you for bringing that up. We have a structural engineer that actually stamps and signs off on structural approval based on assessment. Yep.
Another question.
A very quick one to start with, and then I have a few others. But the first one is, were all those incentives valid for 2023?
Are all the incentives valid for 2023?
Yeah.
And then I don't presently own an electric vehicle, but I'm sure there's one in our future. I had heard that there's a possibility that instead of going down a battery direction, actually having a car charger and the car itself can act as a home battery.
Did you
Yeah,
hear that?
that's-
Casey?
I did. I have to say, I love the concept, and I also appreciate the commercials as a marketing director. So Ford is doing a great job marketing that. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. And that's, I say, like, all of these things in solar in general is really like all puzzle pieces and part of your sort of energy mix, right? So if you're going to have that, like, if that technology is more widely available, which I know it is in that limited capacity now, then yeah, 100%. I would say that, it sort of circumvent the battery aspect of things with the vehicle. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, that in markets like California where they have real-time pricing or time of use pricing, this is the kind of model that they're exploring.
Right.
So it's what a time of use pricing, for those of you who don't know, is that your electricity price will vary by the hour based on how much demand is going on. So those days when it's really hot and everyone's cranking their AC, they want you not to run your dishwasher until a little later. And so they're going to raise the price. And that has to do with how the cost of electricity also is generated. And I'm going to pause for a minute with questions, because we've talked a lot about this theoretically. And we also have lucky enough to have someone in the room that has personal experience with solar, and he's going to share a little bit about his project. This is Sean Bilodeau. He's my fellow member on the Sustainability Committee, and he's going to chat with you about his project. Okay. Laura, do I have to do the photo?
Oh, we've got a phone?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, whatever.
Share screen.
Yeah, share screen and then,
Back to this one.
okay, great.
And share. Thank you. And we'll get you there. You can start with this one.
Oh, that's, I don't know.
Let's just say how much solar.
So this map basically shows you that the solar that we have right now, residential. Oh, yeah. Is it all residential? Or does it have commercial? So this is residential solar right now that we have in Framingham. So there's a lot of room for improvement, but actually that's pretty good. I mean, it's more than I thought. So that's really good. And it's everywhere. So it's well distributed actually. So that's pretty nice too. So.
See, and there you go.
All right, so these are some pictures of the system I have. I didn't have it all done at the same time, which now I'm not pushing any kind of brand, but my options were if I was going to get the solar and the battery at the same time, which now I could do it to this day. It was the Generac brand. When I got my solar, the batteries weren't available. That was a year ago. So about 3 or 4 months ago, I got a call about it and I asked about the battery. So the Tesla, the batteries that they add on to an existing system. So that's basically why I have that battery. If anyone was wondering why, that was the choice of the brand. So if, like I said, if I was going to have the whole system done at once, it could have been one Generac system. They use all their parts from the panels all the way down, where Tesla is kind of like, modified to work with whatever solar panels you have going. Everything he said is right on. It took about 3 to 4 months with having Eversource or Enstar, whoever's doing it, approve it. They have to add on a meter, so they're part of the whole process. The town definitely inspections, electrical and structural for my roof was done. They did have an in-house engineer look at it, so I'm just confirming everything he said. I did go through all that. So it was during the winter. It took a month longer than usual, and I was probably the third person that this company installed the batteries for. So they've had to come back to take pictures, do this, do that. So I don't want to say I'm a guinea pig or anything, but it's a work in progress. And Framingham is, they have a strict inspection service, so they make sure that everything's right. So they like to make sure that they do what they ask. So my final inspection is next Friday, but the system's been up and running for months. So I have had no problems. It started in the summer. It really worked well. I wasn't buying any power. I was selling power back to the grid, and I had a full battery for in case of any emergencies. Right now, obviously I'm getting a lot less sun because it's lower. Although the trees, they drop their leaves, so I'm lucky in that aspect. So you get a little bit from that. So you always got to take that into consideration, whether you have like deciduous or evergreens. That can help you get a little more in the winter. But basically right now, like during the day, I'm fine, but at night I am pulling from the grid because I'm not generating enough during the day to run it, because I'm keeping 50% in storage in case there's emergency. You can change that, you know, if you want to always have 20% in case the power goes out, so you're not at zero, so that you always have power. And it depending on, I use about 20% of my battery. So I like to have like 2 days plus worth in case something, you know, bad happened. I wouldn't have to use power from anyone for like 2 to 3 days, 4 if I, you know, was conservative and all that. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. My system's 10 panels. It's not very large. My house is under 1,000 square feet, so it does fine just for that. I have 2 of the Tesla batteries. I probably should have got a third, and then I probably wouldn't have had to worry about I would have had less worry, and it probably would have been a little bit better. So I do plan on getting one in the future probably. And with their system, you can add 3 on the stack. So I could add 1 more just to that, and then I wouldn't have to like put any more on the wall or do anything else to the panel right now. Yes, sir.
So it looks like all the batteries are in a basement area, and then everything else is pretty much on the outside.
Yeah, depending on your square footage and how much power you're making, you're allowed to put them in non-occupied areas inside. I'm not sure exactly what what the other rules are for it, but I was allowed to put it in my basement because I wasn't having so much that it didn't disqualify it from that.
And you didn't, I'm sorry, you didn't redo the roof at all?
No, my roof was fine for it. It had done 5 years before I had it up, so they weren't going to have to replace the shingles. But like I said, like if I needed to replace the roof, they would come in, they would take the system down for me, let the contractors do what they did. If I had a big leak, the same thing, I could tell them, schedule it. They'd come in, take it down. When it was all set, they'd put it back up and fire it back up. And you're still connected to the grid, so you're not like you're out of power or anything. So basically they will help you in that situation without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can show you my hand. The battery's basically about that wide. Oh, like that wide. So I'd say 2 feet, maybe a little longer, maybe like 30 inches. And it's about 3 feet, 3 to 4 feet off the ground. So it's basically just off the ground, and it comes to about my chest right here.
Yeah, they're about 200 pounds per unit, just about like, the Tesla's right there. I think that a couple other brands, square, the shape, might change a little bit, but generally speaking, it's that, kind of 3x4, 2x5, or 2x4, 3x5, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Sure.
I don't know if it's for you.
Yeah.
or Casey, but how does snow affect solar panels?
Now, it does affect it, but Casey would probably be able to tell you exactly why and everything better. You have a better, I just know it
Great.
affects.
It was snow, you said? Like how does snow affect it?
How does snow like affect the performance of it
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah, I mean, generally, if there's snow covering it, then, actually there wouldn't be in the scenario that we see in the picture in the top corner there, like there's some energy being generated there, clearly not as much. But yeah, I mean, it would affect it. I'd say the 2 things you have going for you are that it's a slicker and warmer surface. So, the snow is melting on them first, and then anything that's piling up is sliding off of them first, when it starts sliding off anyways. Keeping a clear path. There's some accessories you can add to kind of snow guards or guides really anyways that kind of keep it from being one large big chunk. So there's things, ways to prevent it, but not a huge, we kind of, I say, assume a little bit of snow coverage in our projections anyway. So, when we're kind of anticipating what you're going to generate throughout the year, part of that sort of losses for the winter includes, average snow coverage and such.
And the truth is, mostly the snow will slide right off. When it's just a little bit, it sticks to it. Usually if it accumulates, it just comes off. It doesn't stay on it. So you don't have to worry about that as much as say, the cloud cover and things like that, which you're still going to be pulling in a little bit, but it's definitely going to be, muted less.
Are there any other options, or did you consider any other options other than the typical rectangular panels? Because I have seen there's been a little bit of progress technologically.
Yeah, aesthetically, they're coming up to make them a little bit nicer. And that would be like, you know, if anyone had pointers to me, is to speak to your installers before that, because they're not going to make it look bad, but they want to do the most efficient, quickest way, you know, what's easier for them to do. But if you have certain priorities, you want to make sure you tell them before that. If you don't want to see a pipe here, you want to ask them if that's okay and things like that. Like, yeah.
Pretty significant pipe on the outside.
Sometimes they were like my roof, my ceiling attic was open, so they could pull through there. But if you have like finished ceilings and walls like that, it's a lot harder, you know, to get that clean look. But it's something you should talk to your installer about and to them about, and they like to accommodate you. So they, you know, they really will work with you. At least I found that to be the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I'd say now that I'm in the business for the industry for almost 5 years, like I can't help it. My wife will laugh at me every time, but I'll see every solar assistant I drive by, right? And I think I said it earlier, like we think of it as like it's your castle, right? Like aesthetics are the one thing that even the salesiest salesman in me has no counter argument to. I don't like the way it looks, right? If that's right, we'll do the best we can in our models and our projections and trying to show you what it would look like. And I have plenty of examples of, you know, kind of good and sleek and but yeah, I think to your point, like really having the discussion on where the sort of electrical components are going, you know, just if nothing else to be as inconspicuous as possible with running those conduits. And, you know, depending on where your electrical panels are and then where the equipment's being placed, right? I mean, you have to run cable there somewhere. So, you know, also consider trenching if you got like a barn or separate property or something along those lines, right? Like that's another sort of consideration there. But yeah, it's a conversation that you should definitely be having with whomever you're working with. We would be happy to have that conversation, of course, shameless plug, but anybody you're working with should have some awareness of that. I agree.
And they are coming out with like, you know, like the panels aren't just panels now, they're having like sides and edges, like trim on it, so it looks like it's tighter to the roof and things. What were you gonna say?
The solar shingles is the latest that, you know, I hear a lot of people asking about as well, and that's, you know, a specifically Tesla thing. You know, as a company, hard to kind of get behind it without, you know, more than a couple of years worth of proving on it. So I always say keep an eye out for that sort of thing. But I do love the way that, you know, the technology is progressing for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Every year it's getting like it's looking better. If that bothers you, it's looking better. Yes.
Yeah, right.
What's the biggest thing you've had to adapt to as being a solar owner now? Does the battery buzz? Does it create heat? Are you noticing anything weird in the?
It gives off a little bit of a sound. If it's everything else is quiet, you can hear it kind of working, like a little hum, not a hum, but like a beat. But I don't want to say a beat, but something like it working. But really good. I mean, it's Tesla. They made it look really nice with a really cool green light and nice button, you know, that shine and it has like a glass cover, so it looks nice. And so it looks really nice, even though no one will see it. I like to say I own a Tesla, but it's in my basement because basically, I mean, that's what it is. It was a choice between the two. So that's what I did, but it looks really nice. I can't think of any negatives. Like I said, I don't run out of power because when I use too much, I take it from the grid. So the best thing about it, and they probably have it too, is the app that comes with it shows me my energy usage all the time, where it's going, what it's doing. I can program it, like he's saying, when I want to store it, when I want to give it back. It's just amazing, like what you can really do with it if you get really deep into it. It's really has a lot of efficiencies you can really take advantage of if you use it. But I haven't even skimmed the surface of it. I'm looking at it all the time, just like, wow, this is cool. And then I just, you know, that's it. So I'm trying to get better with it. Yeah.
I like the Tesla owner line. I'm like, that's good one.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that one, and you know, it's more true than I like to admit. But
And just to give you a little bit of a visual on we were talking about. So yeah, there's a mobile. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen on it, but
that's a good one.
yeah, I know. Well, hey, you know, there we go. So you know, there's a mobile app for this as well, but also, you know, sort of live website version of that where you can scroll through and see all of your production over time. It's a relatively new system, but you know, it's nice to be able to track that on a day to
Oh,
day.
yeah. It's great. It's addictive watching what your power does. When I turn on my AC or anything, I can see how much more it uses. So now I can tell how much it's really
Yeah.
drawing.
That's
And
great.
I've been trying to figure that out. So I enjoy it. You know, I think it can
Good.
really, and if you're really into saving energy and really being efficient, I think it really has benefits.
So I think, and that's where, right, it's fun, and I like, because I'm a little bit of a tech nerd when it comes to that sort of stuff too, and like watching that. But right, it really makes you think about what you're using. Okay, wait, what's driving that number up? And like, even on some newer systems, all end-phase systems, some solar systems, you can get that consumption monitoring as well, so you can really splice out like what you're using versus what you're generating. And then again, thinking about it on a granular level, how can I shave that number down a little bit, or how can I offset it with another type of technology, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. If I'm heating and stuff, and how can I be more efficient there? Because you really
Yep.
see what it does to your power usage.
Yep.
So, no, yeah. I mean, I could babble all night. So
You do, don't I? I'm just gonna steal the podium.
oh yeah, you can have.
Right. So Casey, we have some questions from our chat online that I'd like to pose instead of, beaten over and over again. I just figured I'd ask you directly.
Yeah.
So do you think the federal incentive will go up more than 30%? Somebody would hate to buy the system and have it go up after they made the investment.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I'm kind of having a little bit of that conversation recently. I don't know that it'd be going up. Again, I'd say as we sort of digest some of the new developments, there might be opportunities for that number to increase on like a project to project basis. Again, depending on how big of a project it is and where the product's coming from and things of that nature, or end users, like who it's going to benefit, right? In the case of like rental properties or shared housing, things like that. So I don't anticipate that standard 30% will go up, but there appears to be opportunities for an added incentive there.
Are residential solar carports or pergolas allowed in Framingham? I refuse to get solar panels installed on my newish roof for fear of voiding a warranty.
I can see that too. So we don't, depending on, that's a loaded question. I went into 3 different directions there, but depending on the type of roof, we're really friendly with, we're general contractors. We're good with working with other types of contractors, particularly roofers. Clearly we have a lot in common. And depending on the setup and the type of roof, the components used could work with those warranties to not void them. I can certainly understand that as a cautionary tale, or just like cautioning that. As far as the pergola question, so yes, in Framingham particularly, I would say anywhere as a rule of thumb, if you have, from a solar perspective, if you have the structure that can structurally hold the weight of the solar panels in the system, which we can assess, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do so. I'm actually trying to pull something off with my parents, and they have a nice pool in the backyard and want some shading. And I said, well, if you want some shading, why not put that fun to work? Love the concept. And it all comes down to really the size of the structure and how much you can generate off it. Last point on that one, I'll say, actually, you also want to think how far it is away from the house. So if you got a trench, and run conduit all the way out to that, then that's just another consideration.
Do you have any idea how many panels or kilowatts are needed to charge an electric car?
As it varies. It depends on how much you're using it and how often you're recharging it. So it's hard to give a one-for-one how many panels really, but happy to kind of do that assessment anyway. Really, we would look at it from how much you're going to use on a monthly basis, and then try to estimate that over the course of the year.
Last question from online. If you have a PPA system now, is buying it out eligible for tax rebates, either Massachusetts or federal?
Twofold. Let me just say thank you for bringing that up, because I really should have hit on that during the presentation. I don't know the answer to that specific question. I believe my interpretation of it was it's like the installation of a new system. So if you're making that purchase, right, the tax credit would be like if you had that system installed. So I guess if that system was installed, but that with a PPA, I do not believe so. So let me kind of take that opportunity to spin off there. There's a bunch of different ways to approach kind of going solar, we'll say. I talk about things a lot in the kind of purchased loan, like ownership model, we'll say, right? Might not be like cash purchase right up front, but like a solar loan or something along those lines is kind of the equivalent of that ownership model, where you as the owner of the system gets the 30% tax credit, all the smart incentives that come along with that as well. With a PPA or a lease, just a PPA power purchase agreement, that's structured where the installer or third party that owns the system is getting all those benefits as far as the tax credits and the incentives. The benefit to you is passed along in the form of a discount on your electric bill, essentially. So the numbers might shift, but I think it's roughly like a 25 to 30% offset of the electric bill. Again, I'm not 100% sure on the PPA there. We don't really offer, or I don't think don't really offer. They're right in certain scenarios for sure. I'll talk about them like this as a cautionary tale because I've just heard plenty of stories where people who didn't really understand what it was that they were signing up for, right? The concept of getting solar installed on your roof, you would think, okay, that offsets your electric bill. But in this case, where you're making that power purchase agreement, they're owning the system and you're really only getting a small percentage of that actual production. So that's really the big difference. Now, there are, again, different scenarios that might be beneficial for. If you don't have the tax liability, nonprofits and the like, that might be an option there. But again, with the new tax credits and the new regulations that are coming out, there's new opportunities for nonprofits and the like to take advantage of those. So, just want to highlight that there are kind of main differences. So when you're going out and you're getting quotes for solar, you want to make sure you're understanding what it is that you're signing up for. If you're looking for, a purchase, an ownership model, or a PPA or lease agreement.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, we have another question from the audience.
What's the disposal cost for batteries?
What is the disposal cost for the batteries? And I didn't hear the second part.
What's the batteries?
What's the disposal cost for the batteries when they're end of life? Do you know that, Sean?
I know mine are warranted, so basically they're supposed to be replaced once, maybe before I pay them off, but there was I don't know. Honestly, I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, and I don't know that we've gotten to the why. I wouldn't know. We haven't gotten to the point of a full life battery at this point. And I think really on the manufacturer level at this point. Again, it's such a new. Tesla's probably been the one around the longest as far as the battery components are concerned. So yeah, kind of tough to say what that would be.
What's the related question? What's the lifespan of the batteries before that would happen?
That's right. But so I think the warranties right now, and actually correct me if I'm wrong on the Tesla, so I can't speak to that. But a lot of the battery products that we're seeing have a 5-year warranty on the equipment. And I think 10 years the expectancy on that. I could be wrong there.
I'd have to check into that. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, so I wouldn't want to argue with that.
Yeah, and our other
And
speaker
it's so
is not
new,
sure.
right? And
And different companies give out different backings to
Right.
them. So mine could say 20 years because, mine could say 20 years, but that's how they do it because they're financing it to me. So they're expecting maybe they don't want it to die while they're financing it. So they'll cover it the whole time of finance. So there might be 20 or 25 where actually someone else might be 10. So.
Right. And I wouldn't say, I'm only saying it because you said the guinea pig aspect of it, right? Because it's such a new sort of new thought or concept in the industry, really, and things are evolving so quickly. I think the longevity of those it's hard to say really at this point. It's kind of like the solar shingles I was talking about earlier. The proof point really isn't there yet. So yeah, hard to say there. And and I only say it right now, from you mentioned with the Teslas, right? So you have two so far and probably could look at another one, right? Like from a whole home perspective, it's hard to get to that point of it's gonna, cover everything in your entire home with one system. I think, and again, I caution because the way the technology progresses, you probably have something, half the size, twice the capacity, a third of the cost, maybe in a couple of years. So the thing to consider now is being forward compatible, I'd say, right? The equipment that you're investing now, your micro inverters, or just inverters, having that capability to connect into a battery if you're not at that current time doing so is probably a good play.
And then once you rely on the batteries, you're gonna start changing all your appliances and things to accommodate your usage and everything.
Right.
So it all will work together eventually most efficiently is the.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. That's the ultimate goal. Exactly right.
All right.
All right.
Well, it looks like there are no other questions. Thank you to Casey very much for being our
Thank you.
speaker. We do
great.
want to make sure that folks have this on your calendar. Our next two events in January on the 23rd, which is also a Monday, we'll be talking about how to get comfy with heat pumps. And so we'll have a speaker for that. And following that, in February, on the 6th, we are going to have a sustainability seminar on electric vehicles. And we plan for both of these to be, again, both in person and online. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, yes, just want to add my thanks, everyone. Thank you so much to Casey. Thanks to the Framingham Sustainability Board or Committee, Framingham Sustainability Committee. And thank you all for being here online and in person, and we hope to see you next month.